your hand to encourage them as they march into the palaces of the high and mighty. I, the Lord, have dedicated these soldiers for this task. Yes, I have called mighty warriors to express my anger. Yes, I have called mighty warriors to express my anger. And they will rejoice when I am exalted.
Hello, good afternoon. Katherine Albrecht here. This is the Dr. Katherine Albrecht Show. I am logging into my chat room. If you go to katherine-albrecht.com and click on the live chat, daily 4 to 5 Eastern, that would be 2 to 3 p.m. in Colorado, where we're broadcasting on KHNC, and I encourage you to hop on in there. Let me click in my name and get signed in. All right. If you have been listening or watching on YouTube the last couple of days, you know that my camera died a couple days ago and the whole picture went black. Still trying to figure out how to keep the Canon 4K camera, I guess is what this is, alive throughout the whole show. So it was just dead. I swapped out a battery and it says low battery again, and I'm trying some various other things, but just letting you know, if you're watching on YouTube, hopefully I will be able to stay live, and during the break we'll try to get that repaired, but just giving you a heads up. And one other cool thing, if you're watching on YouTube, I have now, I hope, turned my camera. Is it right way around? Yeah. No? Yes, it is. There you go. Start mail. I mentioned this because yesterday when I was holding up Eliezer Yudkowsky's new book about artificial intelligence, like if anybody builds it, we're all going to die, that book, I was holding it up in front of the camera, and people in Radio Land have no idea what I'm talking about, but I was holding it up in front of the camera only to hear that I had my camera mirrored or reversed, and so the image on there looks fine if you're just looking at me, because you can't really tell my left from my right. This is my left here. But when you hold up text, it does not work out when it's mirrored. The weird part, and I'm learning all this as I go, the weird part is when you look in a mirror, right? You're home, you're in your bathroom, or you're standing in front of a mirror brushing your hair. When you raise your right hand comes up on the right hand side of the mirror. When you are on a camera and you do that, I'm raising my right hand right now. You guys see my right hand raised, I think. But as I'm looking at the camera here in front of me, a little window here, it's on the left. It's so confusing. So I'm trying to figure that out. The only place it really becomes an issue is, when you're looking in the mirror and you see you're slouched a little bit to one side, you correct by slouching to the other side. When your mirror is doing whatever the normal thing is it's supposed to do, but it's not like a mirror in your bathroom, but it's doing a mirror on a camera. When you lean, if you see you're slouched to the left and you lean to the right, well, you're going to be slouching even more to the left. So I have done interviews with television stations in the past where I could see my little monitor, I could see myself in there. I'm like, I'm leaning. And by the end of the interview, I am like hunched all the way over to one side, trying to coordinate, like moving my head left and right, and getting a little bit distracted about what I'm talking about. So it's an adventure. I'm enjoying it, actually. I really like being able to broadcast. I'm already thinking about ways that I can use this cool camera setup and the ability to stream on YouTube, which is new for me after, 2 decades in media. More than that. Yeah, no, it's been like 25 years. I think I did my first interviews in 2001. So I've been doing this a long time and am just now learning the joy, the glory of being able to, first of all, broadcast anytime I feel like it, not just during the 1 hour of my show. And second of all, to be able to sit in front of a camera and say whatever I want, whenever I want to say it. So stay tuned. There's going to be some cool content. I've got so many things. I bought a whiteboard at the Dollar Tree. It was $5. Dollar Tree. If you have Dollar Trees, by the way, dollar stores where you are, they went from $1 to $1.25, I think last year. They got to be losing money. I mean, inflation has just decimated the value of a dollar. But anyway, so when you go into those stores, not everything is $1.25 nowadays, but they have some items like my whiteboard that are a little more expensive. So I paid a whopping $5 for my whiteboard, and I have topics on there of things that I want to do individual videos about. So I encourage you guys, if you want to do this in the chat room, would love to hear it there. If you want to email me, my YouTube chat, hang on a minute. I've got a YouTube chat room that I've got to bring up too, but I can't find it. So I'll come back to that. I promise. I mentioned that because yesterday people were saying, are you not watching your YouTube chat room? And I'm like, well, I'm watching my Katherine-Albrecht.com chat room, and I'm watching the messages that come in through KHNC if you want to write me there. And I'm watching the phone lines if anybody wants to call in and talk to me on the phone. And so I'm keeping track of like a million things at once, but I'm really, really trying. But if you want to use any of those methods of communication, all of which will eventually get to me once I click on all those windows, and you want to give me some topics to add to my whiteboard to do not a show. They're not shows anymore. To do a podcast on, I would love to get your ideas. Some of the ones that I've been thinking of, if you're a regular listener to the show, you'll know what I'm talking about, are like organ transplants. Maybe I should do, 3-4 minute thing on why you should not donate your, check the little box to donate your organs. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, and you're like, why wouldn't I want to do that? Well, then you're proof of my concept that is needed. You can go through, by the way, my archives and they're searchable. So you can find lots of shows that I've done on the horrors of organ transplants. There's so many things like emulsifiers and gums in food that are completely toxic. How about artificial sweeteners and the microbiome? How about, I don't know, the list goes on. And rather than tell people, I did a show on that once, you should click it up and find, where I talked about it in my 1-hour show on these archives that are audio. And I can instead say, hey, here is a link to my YouTube 3-minute thing on it, and you'll be able to click it up. So it's exciting. So if I have, over the years, I know there are people in the listening audience now who have been listening to my show for, since 2008. If there's something that I've talked about in the past and you would like me to talk about it again on the show, let me know. And if there's something that you think should be made into a clip, not a short, shorts are like 30-second useless stuff, but made into a clip that I can post on YouTube that you can then share with friends. If you want to tell them something that you've learned on the show that we've talked about, sort of our little community kind of shares certain knowledge. If you'd like to let other people in on that, let me know what it is and we'll get it out there. Speaking of our community, all right, I'm just going to do it. I've been like, oh, do I do this? Do I not do it? I'm going to do it. I have to do it. I would not be honest or true to myself if I didn't. Let me think of how to do this right. Oh boy, should I? Yeah, I'm going to do this. But I'm gonna introduce it let me introduce it in a roundabout way. So C.S. Lewis is one of my heroes. I not only loved the Chronicles of Narnia, which is where you have, Lucy and Edmund and the wardrobe, and you have Aslan the lion and Prince Caspian, which I named my consumer privacy organization after. But C.S. Lewis also was a broadcaster on the BBC. He did a whole series where he would come on the radio, which back then was live, not pre-recorded. He would come on the radio and he would give speeches. He would give talks. Those have been recorded. They've been transcribed. Those are available in books. And he also just wrote a bunch of books. He wrote The Problem of Pain when his fiancée, the woman he loved, passed away. He wrote the Screwtape Letters, which I tried to read in my early 20s and found, actually I was in my teens and found that horribly creepy and couldn't read it. But it's about, it's a fictional account of how, a senior demon is training a junior demon in how to harass human beings. It's kind of humorous, but I found it a little hard to read. I should probably try to reread it as an adult. But one of my favorite books of C.S. Lewis's is called The Abolition of Man. And it is it's the kind of book you'd give somebody at their graduation. It's like kind of a meaning of life or how to navigate the society that we live in kind of a book. Anyway, there's a story in there. I'm going to tell it when we come back. I'm going to check all my windows. So if you're texting me, I'll get that. And all right, here we go. Oh, and I'm going to play a video on this clip. Let's see if it works. Can I do it? Here we go.
Why are most email programs free? Companies use them as bait to lure people into their system so they can scan their data and sell them to advertisers. It's like a hotel giving out free rooms so they can film people sleeping and then sell the video. You'd never
Flowing like a gentle river.
No one but you sees your sensitive data, and it costs less than a
Righteousness.
Startmail.com. It's email you can trust.
Rolling over you like waves in the sea. Peace flowing like a gentle river.
Startmail came along. Startmail not only lets you encrypt the email you send, but
Righteousness.
your entire account. Encryption. It's just one more way. Startmail.com.
Rolling over you like waves in the sea. Peace flowing like a gentle river. Righteousness rolling over you like waves in the sea. Flowing like a gentle river. Righteousness rolling over you like waves in the sea. Calling from the throne, when he spoke, the earth began to tremble. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The earth is full of his glory. Woe is me, my eyes have seen the King. I repent of the sins that I've committed. Take the coal, touch it to my lips, purified with the fire. I am forgiven. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The earth is full of his glory.
Hooray. All right, I'm back. So I think I checked think I checked all my windows here. There are 2 people watching my YouTube stream. Thank you to the 2 of you. I have not yet announced it, so I'm not surprised that very few people are there. It's probably a good thing because I'm still trying to figure out all the, I don't know, the ins and outs and ups and downs. All right. So let me talk about C.S. Lewis for a minute. And I was talking about his book, The Abolition of Man, which is just a wonderful book. He wrote it in like the 50s. So it's been a while, maybe 40s. I don't know. He wrote it a while back. In that book, there is a story that he tells, and see if you can draw the conclusion of what I'm trying to say here. He was, and I'm probably going to get the details not exactly right, but you'll get the gist. He was overseeing or mentoring this young man who was a teacher, and he took a job at a school environment, and the administration was awful. They belittled him, they berated him, they treated people with disdain and disrespect, they treated the students badly, and every time he would meet with C.S. Lewis, he would say, this is the worst place to work ever, this administration is so terrible. And this went on for a couple of months. And then C.S. Lewis didn't see him for a while. And he came back, I don't know, the following year. And C.S. Lewis said, so what's up with that school situation, that administration? The guy said, oh, no, it's all resolved. Everything's fine. It's great now. And he said, really? Did they change? He said, oh, no. The thing that changed is I got promoted. I'm a part of the administration now. So nothing changed in the way the school administration was treating the teachers or the students. Nothing got repaired or fixed. No one, the real solution there obviously would have been for the administration to become kinder and more thoughtful and to treat people with greater respect and to get their act together and not, be belittling and berating people and making their lives miserable. That would have been the solution. But what happened with this guy is what happens so often in life, doesn't it? Where you hate it when you're on the bottom, but it resolves as soon as you get on the top and you can do it to other people. We see this in college hazing, right? We see this in fraternities and sororities where there's an initiation. When you are the freshman and you are being initiated into the fraternity and they're making you go through humiliating and difficult and potentially painful or even dangerous hazing rituals, you hate every minute of it. It's horrible. And you think to yourself, this needs to stop. This should not be the way it is. This is terrible. Why are they treating me this way? Something needs to be reformed. But then once you are past your freshman year, once you've gotten through the initiation and the hazing, and now you're a sophomore, junior, senior, and other new freshmen come along and want to join your fraternity, you most likely are right there putting them through the same thing you went through, right? The same initiation process. In fact, you can use your experience of the humiliation and the cold to make it even more humiliating and colder for them. So this is a common human phenomenon where when we are being harmed and abused by people in authority over us, or not even necessarily in authority, but people who are in control, right? That we think this needs to stop. This is terrible. I hate it. I want this system to change. And then as soon as we get into a position where we actually could change the system by being the people in the administration or by being the students who are welcoming new initiates into the fraternity, at that point, rather than use our prior indignation and feeling of how horrible it had been to be on the receiving end of that, we instead turn around and relish the newfound power of being on the doling out end of that. This happens really across the board. This happens with people who have been abused as children. That, if you grew up in a home with a lot of domestic violence, watching domestic violence happen around you, you can take one of two approaches when you become an adult. And let me speak to the men here. So if you grew up in a home where there was domestic violence being meted out by your father, then you can either grow up and make a decision and say, that really was awful, and I felt terrible as a kid, struggling under that, and I don't want to be that kind of parent. And I'm going to make a choice. I don't want to be that kind of husband, that kind of father. I'm going to have a different way of approaching this. That is obviously, that's the mature, right, correct, good thing to do. But it takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage and a lot of self-awareness and a lot of internal work to do that. Because if you've grown up in that environment and that's what you've been around, no matter how much you hated it yourself, without some intervention on your part, on God's part, on someone else's therapy, counseling, or just an ironclad decision that you are going to change things, without that, in the absence of that, you will go on and simply replicate the same thing that was done to you, you will then do to others. This is true across the board. It's true with teachers in the administration. It's true with, the list goes on and on. Anytime there are people at the quote unquote top in a position to harm other people, the people who are harmed are likely, when they get out of that and they're in control, are likely to just do the same thing. So, and of course, women in domestic violence situations, I wouldn't be complete in my discussion of this without saying this, that women who see male violence in the home are not likely to become violent themselves, because that's not their self-image. Their self-image is that of the woman who is being victimized. And so women, same thing, barring some external intervention, some therapy, intervention from God, or a whole lot of work on yourself and a whole lot of changing the way you see the world and the way you're going to operate in it. Barring that, women will then go out and find themselves a partner who will put them in that same situation. So we are not victims of the abuses we've suffered. We don't have to be. We do not have to turn around and dole out those same victimizations that we've experienced on other people. It is the natural tendency. It is one of the reasons why society is broken in the ways that it's broken. It's one of the reasons that a lot of social problems and familial problems are passed on from generation to generation. It doesn't have to be that way. So one of the things I really like about living in this day and age is that we have more, I think we have more awareness of these things, and we have greater resources to figure out how to overcome them. We can order books. We can go on websites. We can, there's a vast array of resources that were not available to our grandparents and our great-grandparents. They just didn't have that. So we have the resources to make choices to live differently than how we were raised, in a way that I think is almost unprecedented in human history. We can make changes. Why am I bringing this up? Well, I'm bringing this up because I have, I'll just go ahead and do this. I'm sure I'm going to get pilloried for this, but do you remember first of all, I'm a Christian. So if you didn't know that, just to reiterate that. I am a follower of Jesus Christ, and I hold to Judeo-Christian values. I hold to believing that the Bible is the literal word of God, and Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. I pray every day, and I do my level best to have to be the best follower of Jesus Christ that I can be. So I just want to say that as a background before I say this next thing, and I'm looking at the clock, and I'm not going to have time to say much. But do you remember, of course, if you're a Christian, a time like 2 years ago, going all the way back a long time, where you could not make a statement about other people's lifestyle choices, right? What you might want to call the woke lifestyle or the woke agenda, or a liberal progressive practices that are not in line with Judeo-Christian thinking. You could not say a word about them. You couldn't criticize anything. And a lot of us just kept our mouths shut in order to not be canceled, in order to not be just lose our jobs, to be written off in lots of different ways. And so during that whole period of time, we learned to keep our mouths shut because we were on the bottom and we were being pounded on. That is just how it was. And that cancel culture, I was horrified by it. It was not around and wasn't the case when I was younger, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. And I remember thinking all through it, as probably did you, can't wait until this goes away. Can't wait until this gets reformed. Stay tuned.
Is your email box overrun with spam? With a StartMail account, you'll never have to give your real email address to a stranger again. Online shopping, newsletter subscriptions, getting that 30% off coupon, they all need your email address. But with StartMail, you can invent new addresses or aliases linked to your inbox behind the scenes and give those out to people while keeping your real address hidden. It's just one more protection from StartMail.com.
Red alert, Yahoo users. You've fallen in a trap that could ruin your life if you keep using Yahoo.
You consent to sharing all data in your email account with our AI providers, and you grant us a perpetual license to use, display, publish, and publicly distribute your content in any media known now or in the future, and to let other users access and distribute it as well.
Yikes. It's time to switch to StartMail, the only email that's AI-free and private by design. StartMail.com. Use promo code JD.
It is not because men have made laws that life, liberty, and property exist. On the contrary, it is because life, liberty, and property existed beforehand that men made laws in the first place. What then is law? It is the collective organization of the individual right to lawful defense and punishing injustice. Frederick Bastiat, The Law.
All of your electronic devices can be severely damaged by lightning bolts and power surges. Even worse, an EMP attack can destroy everything, leaving our technology-dependent society with no technology. But don't let that be you. Go to 1360khnc.com and click on the blue Natural Health Products button, and then scroll down to EMP Shield. EMP Shield is an electromagnetic pulse solar flare and lightning protection system made to protect you and your electronics. Go to 1360khnc.com and click on the Natural Health Products button at the top of the page.
Did you know you can purchase all of the products Julie uses and promotes on her Created to Heal radio show at 1360khnc.com? All the Gano Cafe mushroom infused coffee and teas, and all of the Nature's Sunshine products as well. Products such as Silver Shield, Clean Start, Ultrabiome Detox, and all the other products Julie talks about. Just go to 1360khnc.com and click on the Natural Health Products button, 1360khnc.com.
Most people think they can't afford to invest in gold and silver. But at the Patriot Trading Group, we believe that everyone should have the opportunity to own hard assets. That's why we created our Preferred Metals program. You can get started for as little as $100 a month. Go to allamericangold.com and click on our Preferred Metals icon to learn how you can get started today. Or call us at 800-951-0592, the Patriot Trading Group, allamericangold.com.
Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Surely your goodness and mercy will follow me all of the days of my life. Surely your goodness and mercy will follow me all of the days of my life. Surely your goodness and mercy will follow me all of the days of my life.
All right, I'm back. So I found a pretty good essay on C.S. Lewis. This is not the Abolition of Man story that I was discussing earlier. But this is pretty close. This is called The Inner Ring. And rather than read you The Inner Ring, I will post a link to it in my chat room and post a link to it. Hopefully Laura can post it in the archives as well, so you can read it yourself. But I want to read what Nathan Finn wrote about it last year. This is from Nathan Finn, his Substack. Think Christianly, live faithfully. Kind of like that. All right. He writes this. This week, my transformational leadership class read and discussed C.S. Lewis's famous essay, The Inner Ring. In 1944, C.S. Lewis first delivered this material as the memorial lecture at King's College London. A year later, the temptation of the inner ring was a major theme in his 1945 novel, That Hideous Strength, which you should absolutely read, especially if you're in academia. Extraordinary book. It's part of a three-part science fiction trilogy. And That Hideous Strength is probably the third book of that is the one that I'd recommend you read. The other ones are fun, but I didn't quite understand the allegory of them. But That Hideous Strength is an amazing book. All right. It was the concluding title in his three-volume space trilogy. All right. In 1949, the lecture was revised for publication as part of his wonderful book called The Weight of Glory and Other Addresses. In the essay, Lewis argues that our world is filled with inner rings, small groups that, for whatever their reason, cause a dividing line between insiders and outsiders. Inner rings may be formal or informal. They normally have boundaries that are policed, whether implicitly or explicitly. They develop their own internal logics, traditions, and expectations. Inner rings are not necessarily bad in principle. Think of a small leadership team or a committee, or a baseball bullpen, or a football special teams unit. However, inner rings can easily devolve into cliquish and snobbish patterns. More important for Lewis than the existence of inner rings is how our desires are formed or malformed in proximity to such groups. The section of the inner ring that lands strongest with me, he writes, is Lewis's discussion of scoundrels, a word I told my students we don't use nearly enough. By the way, that is not a good word, scoundrel. Yeah, I'll quote the relevant section, and now he's got a quote from C.S. Lewis. Here's what he says, and I love the way he writes. It would be polite and charitable, in view of your age, and in view of your age reasonable too, to suppose that none of you is yet a scoundrel. He was addressing college students. On the other hand, by the mere law of averages, it is almost certain that at least 2 or 3 of you will, before you die, have become something very like scoundrels. There must be in this room the makings of at least that number of unscrupulous, treacherous, ruthless egotists. The choice is still before you, and I hope you will not take my hard words about your possible future characters as a token of disrespect to your present characters. And the prophecy I make is this. To 9 out of 10 of you, the choice which could lead to scoundrelism will come. And by the way, I'm going to say that to all of my listeners because it comes to all of us. When it does come, it will come in no very dramatic colors. Obviously, bad men, obviously threatening or bribing, will almost certainly not appear. Over a drink or a cup of coffee, disguised as triviality and sandwiched between 2 jokes from the lips of a man or a woman whom you have recently been getting to know rather better, and whom you hope to know better still, just at the moment when you are most anxious not to be crude or naive, not to appear to be crude or naive or a prig, the hint will come. It will be the hint of something which the public, the ignorant, romantic public, would never understand. Something which even the outsiders in your own profession are apt to make a fuss about. But something, says your new friend, which we, and the word we, at hearing that word, you try not to blush from your pleasure. Something we always do. And you will be drawn in. If you are drawn in, not by desire for gain or ease, but simply because at that moment, when the cup was so near your lips, you cannot bear to be thrust back again into the cold outer world. It would be so terrible to see the other man's face, that genial, confidential, delightfully sophisticated face, turned suddenly cold and contemptuous, to know that you had been tested or tried out for the inner ring and rejected. And then, if you are drawn in next week, it will be something a little further from the rules. And next year, something further still. But all in the jolliest, friendliest spirit. And it may end in a crash, a scandal, penal servitude, jail time. It may end in millions. A peerage, which in Britain, a peerage is a title in where you're given landed property or a title and become a lord or a lady. A peerage and giving the prizes at your old school, but you will be a scoundrel. That's how it happens. Lewis is describing the role that the disordered desire to be on the inside of the inner ring, and perhaps the sinful tendencies of certain inner rings themselves, play in our moral degradation. He's describing potential baby steps on the road to scoundreldom and warning us to avoid them. What strikes me most about this section, he goes on to write, and really the entire essay, is how our moral and spiritual decline is so often incremental, at times perhaps even imperceptible. I'm not saying we don't sometimes throw caution to the wind in the spur of the moment and make terrible decisions. Obviously we do. But even in such cases, it's often the case that 1,000 little compromises have malformed us for the actual moment of spiritual catastrophe. And then he goes on. So this absolutely matches my experience. And if you've reached a certain age, you know what I'm talking about. You know what he's talking about. You know what he's writing about here. He is talking about the time when you are in the company of someone who you very much want to impress. And they bring up something that is immoral, illegal, wrong, somehow just doesn't match your spirit. And a part of you thinks, right? But then you got to weigh, you got to balance. Do I want to do what is right and throw away this opportunity to be part of the inner ring, to move up into that circle? Or am I willing to just kind of squelch my uneasiness, my queasiness over this thing and kind of go along with this one little small thing? It's just a small thing, and continue to get the approval and acceptance of the people who are in that inner ring. Okay, so at Harvard, people have often asked me, Katherine, how did you go to Harvard and come out as a Christian? How did you go to Harvard and come out as a conservative, given what Harvard has become from its founding as a Christian institution to its becoming one of the most liberal propaganda training grounds in the world? The answer to that is, first of all, I didn't get a whole lot of conversations like that. Those really don't happen when you're just a graduate student and you're just trying to pass your classes. It doesn't happen quite that overtly. That I have had conversations like that afterwards when I've been in places of power, but people usually don't have conversations like that with undergraduate students or even graduate students. That's just not how it happens. I think the indoctrination in those environments is much more Harvard student. I've talked about this before. Harvard students' ability to kind of sense which way the wind is blowing and what your professor wants you to do to get a good grade, because you don't get to Harvard without having had a highly, keenly tuned sense of what other people want from you, right, in an academic context. Because to get there, you have to have gotten straight A's. And to get straight A's, you need to be able to assess a whole bunch of different personalities and a whole bunch of different classes in terms of what is it exactly this professor's looking for. Well, that one wants me to speak up in class. Well, that one doesn't like when I speak in class, but wants me to turn in, really brilliantly written homeworks. Or that professor puts a lot of stuff on his tests that came from the textbook, but not from the lecture. So you develop this ability, usually within the first week of a class, to figure out, okay, here's the rules, here's what I've got to do here in order to get the A that I need to get, because my identity is I'm an A student. I'm a really good student. I'm a diligent hard worker, and I get A's on tests and A's on homeworks and A's in classes. And when you have that attitude in a class that is being run by someone with a very distinct ideology that perhaps is very different from your own, you fall in line. I was not going to be in a class which was about, name your woke topic. Not that we had too many of those in the 90s when I was in school, but we did. we certainly had our share. I was not going to be in that class and start arguing politics or start arguing morality. I was going to be in that class and write the paper I needed to write to get the grade I needed to get. And that's, for me, maybe just because of the way I'm wired, I'm kind of a little rebellious isn't quite the right word, because I don't think I am, but I'm willing to go against the grain pretty frequently. Gets me in trouble sometimes. But I don't just absorb the party line when I think the party line's wrong, but I can pretend to. I'm pretty good at that. So yeah, I was able to get good grades without being changed. Yeah. And I have told the story, by the way, at MIT, how they almost messed me up. I almost did change, but God rescued me from that. Anyway, all right, stay tuned. I'll be right back, and I'm going to try to find the other story from C.S. Lewis. All right, back in a moment.
I've been hearing a lot about the LifeWave patches, and they sound amazing. And I'm thinking I want to try them for myself. But can you tell me how they work?
You wear the patch, which is about the size of a quarter, 12 hours a day, 12 on, 12 off. And the patch uses your body's own light and energy and copper peptides to reactivate the dormant stem cells in your body. Once a stem cell has been reactivated, it can be used by any of the cells in your body that need it, creating a healing and growth process you haven't experienced since your youth. So in a nutshell, this is how the LifeWave X39 patch works.
You can purchase the LifeWave patches by going to americasfreedomnetwork.com. Then click on the Natural Health Products button at the top of the page. That's americasfreedomnetwork.com.
Look, this product works, and you've got nothing to lose because there's a 100% money-back guarantee.
That's americasfreedomnetwork.com. Thank you.
Back in the USSR.
Socialism, like the ancient ideas from which it springs, confuses the distinction between government and society. As a result, every time we object to a thing being done by government, the socialists conclude we object to it being done at all. We disapprove of state education, and the socialists say we are opposed to any education. Socialism. Frederick Bastiat, The Law.
Swamp fight! Swamp fight! Swamp fight! Swamp fight!
Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4.
Want to comment on today's subject? You can. Call or text Katherine right now at 877-536-1360. That's 877-536-1360.
No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends, but I have called you friends. I have called you friends.
Reason